friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be taking you along with me. I have a few different gardening tasks to do here in the backyard, and I'm also going to be sharing with you what has worked for us the past 2 years with seed starting, like the super easy way to do it, because I feel like last year when I was doing our very first garden I did a ton of research and it took a ton of time to kind of figure out what the best way to do things was. So I figured I would just share a step-by-step guide for you. I thought it would be helpful if I could share kind of a video that has a guide in it that will just kind of give you the starting points to start with that worked really well for us so far, and then from there you can do your own research and change things as you go if you want to, but at least it gives you a jumping off point of how to start and what to do, because you're not too late. You can still get started now, and there's lots of time in the growing season still, and now is the time to start. So I wanted to get this up for you guys. I will also have in the description a link where you can sign up for my email list, and I created a shopping list and a quick reference guide that you can download so that you can just take that with you to the store to get everything that you need. And then I have all of the main points in that guide as well, so that you just have a quick reference guide to take with you to make it super easy. So hopefully that will be helpful for you. If you are new around here, my name is KyAnn, and I share a lot of content around backyard homesteading on a 1/4 acre. We have goats, chickens, and then a big backyard garden as well, and we share lots of family life and doing gardening and all the homesteading things with toddlers and a newborn as well, because we have 3 kids, 3 and under, so it's definitely busy around here. So we would love if you would subscribe if you like that kind of content and join our little YouTube family. And if you're not new around here, thank you so much for joining us for another video. Okay, I have my iced coffee, and we're actually gonna go back into the garden because I have some weeding to do. I can give you guys an update soon. The garden's gonna look a little messy because we're in the midst of like cleaning everything out, but we've gotten most of the beds weeded and ready to go, so we need to add some compost on top, and then obviously we'll mulch. Oh, there's a butterfly right there. Let's see if you can see it, if I don't scare it away. We'll add mulch after we plant everything, but we did get most of it weeded in the last couple days. It's not going to open up, so I just look like an idiot staring at straw. Anyways, we're on the last bed that we need to clean out, so I'm going to work on that while I talk to you guys. We have the kids over here just playing, and this little section we thought about adding a garden bed. I don't think we're actually going to this year. I think we're going to keep it as it is. We're going to add a sandbox in here, and we're hopefully going to make that into like a more permanent, where Knox is playing, make this into a more permanent like mud kitchen area. And then I want to add like a chalkboard over here, just some really fun things to keep the kids entertained. We might do like a little garden bed for them to just kind of dig in and play in, maybe plant some things, stuff like that. So this will be their section because it is a little bit shaded. So I did want to add a garden bed here, but I think most of the day it's honestly pretty shaded, so I don't think it would work as well as I would like. Okay, so first off, I'll just give you a disclaimer that I am not an expert by any means. This is my 2nd year gardening, and I'm not making this video because I am an expert and because I know everything, but more so because I feel like there is value in sharing the process as you go, and sharing, you know, the wins that you have and the things that are working well as the failures, because I think it's really helpful to see people that are not just experts talking about it, but people that are actually going on the journey and learning along the way right from the beginning. I think there's a lot of value to be found in like seeing the journey and not just the end product. So that is why I'm sharing, to give a little background on my gardening experience, which is not very much at all. We started our first garden last year. We started everything from seed. I think we got maybe like 4 plant starts of like a tomato variety that I didn't have that I found at a nursery, some mint, a couple things like that, but most of the full garden was from seed, and it went really, really well. Everything went honestly really well until I got pregnant. And my pregnancies, I am very sick for like the majority of my pregnancy, enough that I have to go to the hospital every other day and get infusions, and I'm kind of like bedridden honestly for a good portion of it. So because of that, in order to just kind of like survive that season, I also had 2 toddlers at home at the time too. We kind of let the garden go, and we had to focus on our other priorities. Keeping our animals healthy and obviously good came as a priority first. So we didn't get to experience like all of the fruit. We got some things from the garden, but the full harvest, we pretty much had to let the garden go by that point, so that we did not get a ton of harvest because a lot of the plants died in the heat and things like that because we weren't keeping up on it. That's kind of the background. We have a 1/4 acre lot. We are in the city, and we have, let's see, 6 garden beds that are like 12 foot by 4 foot. And then we have several vertical trellises and things to have more vertical growing spaces, and then I have a green stalk vertical tower you might have seen when I walked in that can hold quite a few plants as well. I believe it can hold like 72 plants or something crazy like that. So that's kind of a background on like where we're gardening from. We are in zone 6B personally, and that is the first tip that I would say when you are getting ready to start your first garden, is to look up what zone you are in and then kind of do some research on what plants you want to start. I would say as far as that goes, I would start with the things that you eat a lot. Don't just start with like all of these crazy plants that you're never going to use, because you have to think of the end product. So if you're planting things that you don't really love, what are you going to do with it when you have a huge abundance of it, you know, to put up or to use in cooking and all of that? So start with the things that you really, really love, and it's going to be a lot more rewarding. I would also start with, like I said, looking up your zone, and then once you decide kind of a list of plants that you want to start with, looking at when those need to be started and then counting backwards from your last frost date. So you can just Google your frost date and the city that you're in, or even your zip code, to get the exact zone that you're in and the last frost date for that zone, and then you're going to work backwards. So the seed packets will say on the back how many weeks before the frost date or after the frost date that they can be planted. So you're just going to count backwards from there, and that's going to tell you what you can plant now and what you need to start inside. Now, as far as starting the seeds, here is kind of what you need to get started. The way that I have done seeds the past 2 years is pretty much figuring out the most budget-friendly way that you can start seeds and the easiest way that you can start seeds without having a whole bunch of extra gear, because I just haven't had the budget to be able to do everything. Like I don't have the budget to build a greenhouse right now, or even like grow lights can get really expensive. So this is the way that I found to do it really budget friendly, really easy, and to get some good solid plants that are ready to go in the ground by the time that, you know, your weather has warmed up enough. So what I've done is I buy solo cups, and that's what I start all my seeds in, and I'll show you some of this process in a little bit because I need to start some more flowers. We have a couple beds that we're doing like cut flowers in, and then the rest are vegetables. So I'll show you a little bit more of the process as I am starting those flowers in a minute. But I buy solo cups, just buy a pack of them, and then you can drill holes in them so that there's drainage, and I plant all of my seedlings in that. And then the next thing is obviously where to get your seeds. There are lots of wonderful sites online that you can get seeds from, and I definitely want to experiment with that in the future. I want to get some varieties that you can't get at the store that are more unique, all the things like that. But this year and last year it came down to I did not order early enough. A lot of those seeds you have to order in like January or maybe even before that, and a lot of varieties go out of stock. I didn't want to wait for shipping, all of that. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I prefer to shop in store even if there's less options, because when I go online for anything, and I'm not just talking about seeds, clothes for my kids, like clothes for myself, like whatever, because there's so many options online that it's overwhelming, it's hard to narrow down, and I end up spending way more money than I need to. So what I did last year, and I did again this year because I had a newborn and I ended up running out of time, is just going to Atwoods or whatever farm supply store you have near you. I mean, even Walmart and Target and places like that have seeds available as well, so you could even get them from there. And I just choose from the selection that they have at the store. I did not even do all organic. Some of them are organic, but not all of them. And the thing that I've learned through talking to people is I use organic gardening principles. I don't use any chemicals at all on my plants, and like I make sure that we're getting good compost, all of those things. And so even if I get non-organic seeds, the produce that is grown from that is so much better than the produce that you can get from the store. It's never sprayed with anything, nothing like that, so it's still so much better. So in the future I may decide to get all organic seeds, but for now I decided to just start a little bit smaller, again a little bit more budget friendly, and just get what I could get at the store. And it's again so much better of a product than you would get at the store, just based on how you garden and what you choose to do. And that's just what I personally want to do with my garden, is I don't want to have any chemicals on it. I want to be in control of that, which does make it a little bit more difficult, I'll be honest, to deal with things naturally. But anyway, so that is what I would recommend for your first year, is to just go to your farm supply store, because I think it's really easy to get overwhelmed otherwise and just have endless options, and you're never going to decide, or you're going to spend so long trying to decide or spending so much more money. I think it's easiest if you just go to the store and just choose from what they have there. If there are some specific things that you eat a lot of that aren't in the store, maybe order 1 or 2 extra online. That has proved to work really well for me, at least these first couple years doing it, and that's what I would recommend to you as well. Well, I got so distracted filming this video that I have not pulled a single weed while I've been sitting here, so I'm gonna have to come back and do that, so I just look like an idiot sitting here talking to a camera in my backyard, but you know, the things you do for YouTube, it's fine. But I'm gonna go and I have to start some of these flower seeds, so I'm gonna go and show you the whole process of how I start the seeds, and then I'll show you after that how I keep them inside without grow lights and what I do for that whole process. So let's go start some more seeds really quick. Look at my chickens. We had this box that we were using as a compost bin last year, and then we ended up deciding we had put a little bit too much on our plate, and so we just let it go. You're probably gonna think we let a lot of things go. I will say, don't put too many things on your plate at once. We made that mistake last year. I made a video all about this. You can go watch it, and then you have to drop things and it kind of stinks. But anyways, so it's here and they come back here and do what chickens do, which is great. Chickens are amazing at helping you with compost, and that was kind of our goal actually when we started it. But they were so tiny last year that they didn't do anything with it, but they are now, and you know, it's great. It's kind of fun to just watch them peck back and forth and pop their little heads up. We got a sleeping baby over here. Matt brought her out and put the bouncer out here. We have this table that we kind of use as like our potting table, so it's dirty, and this is my potting mix here. So it's called Expert Gardener Potting Mix. I just get it at Walmart and it's pretty cheap. The main thing you want to look for is that it is a potting mix. That is the main thing, because it has like, oh, I don't even remember because I did all the research last year, but I remember that potting mix was the key, and I believe it has like peat in it, and let's see, yeah, phosphate, and let's see what else. There's just some added things in it that give it some nutrition that it needs as well, so that it's not just like sterile seed starting soil. This has some nutrition in it, which helps it to be okay basically for longer. And then these are my solo cups that I have. So we pre-drilled the holes in the bottom. If you can see, we just use a drill 3 holes in it, so that it can drain really well. Using these solo cups helps to make sure that you have longer basically for them to be good, because it's a lot bigger than a traditional seed starting thing. So you have a lot longer that they could live in these if it's not nice outside before you have to transplant them. So I will start them in this, and here, we'll move over real quick. Okay, sorry for all the background noise. I feel like there's a lot going on, but the basics of seed starting. So we'll start them in this, and I just fill each cup up, you know, basically 3/4 of the way or a little fuller with the potting mix. I take whatever seed I'm starting. I'm doing a bunch of flowers right now, so I'll just take whatever seed I'm starting, and I usually start 3 to 5 seeds in each cup, kind of depending on their size. So if they're larger seeds, I'll do 3 of them. If they're tinier, like little poppies and things like that, I'll do like 5 of them in this, and then I water them super gently. After that, I take them inside and water them like on the lowest trickle in the sink, which takes kind of forever because you do it one by one, and I have a lot of cups, but then you're not scattering the seeds like everywhere. And then I keep them inside until they germinate, and I just keep them on the floor of our kitchen. I actually filmed a clip earlier showing you some of our seeds that are on our kitchen floor, and then what I do next, so I'll show you that here in a second. So I showed you guys in a recent vlog that we had started a bunch of seeds and put them on this tray that Matt built me, and then some other trays that we had around. And the reason they're on trays is to prevent water from leaking out onto the floor, but also just to make it easier, since we have a bunch of seedlings, to transport them with trays is a lot easier than just one by one. So we started them, and then we put them here, which is just the floor of our kitchen, and they were down here until they germinated. So this is what's left that hasn't germinated yet. We started them 6 days ago, and so there's a few left to germinate, but the majority have already germinated, because the most important thing before they germinate is temperature, making sure that they're really warm, and most seeds do not actually need access to light. They do get some light here because there is a big window to the left of this in our kitchen, but it's on the floor, so like the cabinets are blocking it, all of that. There's not a ton of light. However, it is really warm in here. So I kept them all here, and then the second we saw sprouts coming up, I have been coming to check with Camden like multiple times a day. We just check whenever we're in here, and we look for any of them that pop up, and as soon as they pop up, then we transfer them, and I'll show you really quick. As soon as they pop up, then we transfer them over here. So we have a big window over here. This is in our living room. It's a south-facing window. If you can see, it's a good-sized window over here. And I just have TV trays actually set up over here. This is how I did all of my seeds last year, the entire time, is I kept them in front of this window. And then once it was warmer, like every day that it was above 50 degrees, I would set them outside and then just bring them in at night. But that's what we're doing right now, is as soon as we see them germinating, we bring them over to these tables because you want them to have light right away. There's some that I'm worried are getting a little leggy back there. But so far, at least they mostly look good. And I plan to also put them outside once they get a little bit bigger, do the same thing where I put them outside to get access to obviously full light outside. And then also I feel like it helps them just be sturdier in general. But this is just temporary at the moment because I need to go get a shelf because we have a lot more seedlings this year. So I feel like I'm not going to be able to have them all, especially once we divide them out. I won't be able to let them all have good access to the light. So I think we're going to end up possibly getting a shop light and definitely getting a shelf and putting them in front of a south-facing window that way also, so that there's more room for more plants to get good access to light, if that makes sense. So I can show you guys that setup once we get the shelf actually set up, but we haven't done that yet, and this is what we're working with, and it's worked great so far. And like I said, I did all my seedlings this way last year, and they did great. And then after they germinate and they get in the light and all of those things, once they start getting bigger, then I will transplant them and up pot them into another cup. So once they get their first true leaves is what I look for, and you can Google that and look for what true leaves look like on different plants, because if you're brand new, you don't know what different seedlings look like. But once they get big enough, then I'll take another solo cup. I'll bring the plant out here that has, you know, 3 to 5 little starts in it. I'll take it out, gently break up the roots, and then take each one and put them in a new cup. And then they can stay in those cups for quite a while. They can grow pretty big. By the time I transplanted them actually out to the garden last year, because here our last frost date is usually around like April 13th or something like that, but most people around here don't actually plant things in the garden until after Mother's Day, so that's like almost a month later, obviously. And some of our plants were, I mean, I don't know, probably a foot tall, and they were fine in this. Obviously you have to keep watering them. As they get bigger, they'll need to be watered more because they're just taking more moisture and all of that, but it worked out really well for us. And then as I'm planting them, I actually just use craft sticks to label them. Last year I used colored craft sticks. Don't do that because I feel like it's hard to read. After you water them and everything, it kind of bleeds and you're not able to read which plant is which as easily. So this year I just got the natural wood ones, and Matt actually got me like a huge 1,000 pack, so I won't have to buy any for a long time, but it was like a couple bucks for this whole big thing, so it'll last a long time. Label them all with this, put it in there, transfer them inside, let them stay in the kitchen until they germinate, and then once they germinate, they need light right away. Before they germinate, the most important thing is warmth. So then once they germinate, I move them to the windowsill and let them sit there if it's too cold, and then I will show you what I do to take them outside here next, and we'll go to the front porch so I can show you some of my seedlings that are there. Okay. It is bright out here. We're gonna go out front and I'm gonna show you where a bunch of my seedlings are on the porch so that I can show you how I harden them off and how I get away with not using grow lights with my seedlings. We're on the front porch now, so I'm gonna flip you around. Okay, this is my front porch, and we have all of my seedlings that have germinated. We have a few peppers and things like that that we're still waiting to germinate, but these are all out here. I'm gonna sit right here for a minute with the seedlings. So basically, this is kind of dependent on the weather. So with both years, I started the plants right around the same time. Last year, I started them right at the end of March, and I started them right around the same time this year. I wanted to do a little earlier this year. I wanted to do about a month earlier, actually, this year, but I had a newborn baby. She was born in the middle of February, so obviously, you know, she was only a few weeks old. Literally, maybe not even 2 weeks old when I would have wanted to start the plants, and so it just didn't happen this year, and that's fine. It's totally fine to start it later. You still have a lot of time, especially if you have a long growing season like we do here. It's totally fine. My process with the hardening off is going to vary a little bit kind of based on that. So basically, once they germinate, I move them to the windowsill like I showed you and put them in front of our big south facing window for them to get light. As soon as we have a day that is above 50 degrees, I take them outside and I leave them outside all day, as long as it's above 50 degrees and it's not like pouring down rain or a thunderstorm or anything like that. So I take them in and out every day, and for both years I've been able to take them out most days after I started them once they germinate. a lot of the seeds take like a week to germinate, so I feel like even starting them the end of March, that week for them to germinate helps a lot. And then we have higher temperatures by the time they do germinate, so that I can put them outside pretty quickly. But this has worked really well for me, and I have not used grow lights at all, and they're doing great. Sorry if the lighting is like awful, maybe that's just the photographer in me, but I gotta figure out now that the days are longer where to film, and just how to film outside again in the evening with the light, how to make it all, you know, look good. Anyway, some of the plants did get a little bit leggy, like you can see these. Leggy just means that what that is they're reaching for the light, so if they don't have enough light, they will, like if you can see, they're all growing the same direction because that's where the light was, and so they'll just get too long in here, and then they won't be as strong of plants, and that's what you don't want that. And so they should straighten out, and I should be able to get them, I can plant them deeper and hopefully get them evened out a little bit before we actually plant them in the ground. But yeah, so some of them did get a little bit leggy, but they should still work out to be good plants by the end. And a little leggy is not the end of the world. It happens, and they should still be strong little seedlings by the time you transplant them. So yeah, that's kind of my process for not using grow lights, is it's a lot of work to take them in and out every day, but I think it creates stronger plants anyways, because the hardening off period, they have a long time to harden off. People say that you should like run your hands over them so that they're used to like feeling, you know, essentially kind of like wind and different elements touching them like it will be when they're outside. Because the problem is when you start them inside, if you don't touch them at all or create any wind or anything like that, it's such a sterile, like perfect environment that they're not strong enough to then go outside and survive, because they're so used to those conditions. And so I feel like this helps a lot, because they're mostly outside honestly, but they just get started a little earlier than they could, because even if it's still freezing in the evenings but it's getting up to 50 in the days, they can still get a lot of sunlight during the day, and then just come inside where it's warmer so that they're not getting, you know, damaged by the frost or anything like that in the evenings. So that is my process for that. So yeah, these guys are looking good for the most part so far. We're gonna wait for them to grow a little bit more and get their true leaves, and then we will up pot them into their own little solo cup instead of having several of them. And then I'm gonna have, you know, 5 times the amount of cups that I do in here, and I still have some inside that haven't germinated yet. So it's gonna be a lot of cups to take in and out. Matt did build me, I think I showed you guys, this little wooden, it's kind of like a drawer essentially, and then it has twine here on the end so that I can pick it up, and I can fit quite a few cups in there. So hopefully it'll only take a few trips back and forth with this, and I might see if I can just get him to make me a couple of these so I can just take them in easily, because we still have about a month until I'll be transplanting them out into the garden. As far as when to transplant, you are going to want to talk to other gardeners around you. You can even just post on Facebook and ask other people who garden when they typically plant out their plants, because I think it varies a little bit, and you're going to want to ask someone who lives near you. For us, like I said, the last frost date is like around April 13th, but people recommend waiting until after Mother's Day to actually plant things out in the garden that are frost tender. There are definitely things like broccoli and peas and beans and all of that that can be planted quite a bit before the frost date, so you don't have to worry about those things. But the frost tender things, you are going to wait to plant those out until you're sure that there's no frost, and make sure that you check your 10-day forecast and make sure that there's no lows that will be in the frost range and all of that before you get it planted out. Another reference that I'll mention really quick, I don't have the book with me, but I actually have it out inside because I've been referencing it a lot, is The First Time Gardener's Guide to Growing Vegetables by Jessica Sowards. She has so much good information. She has a YouTube channel as well, so definitely check her out, Roots and Refuge. I learned a ton of stuff from her, highly recommend. But her book is awesome if you want to have a hands-on, like printed out, tangible thing that you can hold and reference often as you're starting seeds. It has a ton of information on there on various different plants and best growing practices, all of that kind of thing. Like, it covers everything you need to know. So I would definitely recommend that. I'll link that below. And then also, like I said, I did create a guide that has a quick reference guide and then a shopping list within it as well. So if you sign up for my email list, linked below, you can get that and download it so that you can just go to the store, have the list of everything you need. I just wanted to make it super easy because, like I said, I couldn't find anything like that when I started last year, and so it was just a lot of researching and a lot of watching videos and all of that, which is great, and I'm so glad that the information is out there. But I wanted to make some sort of guide so that you could easily just go to the store, check things off the list, grab it, and just get started right away, especially since it is a little bit later in the season. It's not late in the season by any means. You still have tons of time, tons and tons of time, so hear me when I say that. But a lot of people have already started seeds, so if you're gonna start the seeds, it's probably the time to do it. So I wanted to get this out there and have that resource to make it just the easy button button for starting seeds so that you could do it really quickly and efficiently. I think even if you have the budget to buy started plants and you want to buy the majority of things as started plants, that's great. I'm not discouraging that at all. That's great. I did starting seeds because I had enough plants that I wanted to do that to go buy all of those would have been very, very expensive on the budget. And so, but also at the same time, learning to start seeds is a really, really good tool to have and to know how to do. It just helps you be more self-sufficient, and it helps you obviously save money and also just learn those skills. I think it's really, really handy to know that. So I would encourage you, even if you do buy most things as started plants, to maybe just grab a couple seed packets and try your hand at starting them from seed, because you're going to get the experience. And as you grow, if you're going to want to be doing more and more plants, you're probably going to want to know the skills to starting seeds anyways, because for most people, if you're growing on a large scale, it's just not sustainable to go buy all of those plants and have a huge garden full of started plants. So I would recommend just going ahead and starting to learn now and experiment and get some of those skills, you know, in your tool belt so that you have them for the future. Another thing, like as you are scaling, is learning about succession planning, and you're going to want to know how to start seeds for that as well, because a lot of things, you know, have a limited growing season. So a lot of people, as they scale and grow their garden, they learn how to do succession planning so that you can have different plants, essentially the same kind of plant, but going in multiple times throughout the season to extend your growing season so that you have more plants and more harvest, obviously, from that. And if you want to grow on a large scale, it's a really good skill to have. I know this is a lot of information in the video, so that I hope that it was at least somewhat helpful to kind of see the process, take you along for a little bit, show you what we're doing and what's working for us, and just give you somewhat of a guide to go off of if that is helpful for you, if it is your first year gardening, to just get started and try it. You're gonna have failures, you're gonna make mistakes, but you might as well start learning now, because you're gonna have those failures no matter when you start. Sorry for all the background noise. We have lots of children playing back here. And Matt is working on, I don't know if you can see him, he's working on a sandbox that he's building that we got for Knox for his birthday, and he got some other toys to go with it, and we're actually gonna put it in the garden area, and I think they're gonna have a ton of fun. So I'll show you the finished product when it is done. But if you like to see backyard homesteading stuff, lots of DIY projects, you know, homesteading on a budget and being resourceful with what we have, I would love if you would subscribe. You can do that below to see all of our videos and see, you know, what we're growing this season, our animals. We have the goats and chickens back here just running around. We're gonna have baby goats soon. So anyway, subscribe to see all of that, and if you are already subscribed, thank you so much for watching all of our videos, and we can't wait to see you soon. Bye friends.